Thanks, Samantha. My name is Daniel Marrujo. I'm a lead technical support analyst here in BMC. I've been working here for almost 5 years, and I work always in smart reporting first, and now I'm working on Helix dashboards. The agenda for today, we're going to start with a high-level architecture about how ITSM communicates with Helix dashboards. The out-of-the-box distribution process, the scope or what is the intention of the out-of-the-box content, and the main six categories that we have on ITSM for the out-of-the-box reports. And I'm going to demo one dashboard of each category, how we build it from scratch, and how we make the different visualizations that we have in there, including the drill through and how each of them were built. And at the end, some references to other webinars and a summary, as we always do. Okay, I'm going to start to explain what is the AD Helix portal and how this interacts with the current ITSM product. So this is the normal way a user actually gets into the platform. He syncs in into Helix ITSM, and then he can cross-launch to the AD portal. And then from the Helix portal, then we can cross-launch to Helix dashboards, and of course, all of the out-of-the-box content is in here. Helix dashboard communicates directly with ITSM, but not directly to the database. This means that we have RLS in here to help us with the security, as we are not normally connecting or going down directly to the AR database. This is a keyword that will help us, the ARJDBC, that is the connector that we use to connect to the AR system. And also want to let you know that Grafana is the engine behind Helix Dashboard. This is a third-party product that we are adapting to use for our own purposes. Okay, let me go to the next slide. I want to explain you how the out-of-the-box content is actually distributed here on BMC, especially for the SaaS world. Okay, so first of all, the number of out-of-the-box reports will depend of the actual applications that you have on your system. This means that, for example, if you have live chat, that content is going to show up. And well, the normal one is the ITSM, that is our biggest one, and CNDB, that all of our systems have them, but the final out-of-the-box content depend on how many systems or products you have on your contract. Okay, another very good point to explain is that all the content and outbreaks are shared between customers. What this means? Okay, on BMC we have the products installed on data centers. For example, we can have the Americas non-prom data center, and we have, for example, 5 customers in here. If we push an outbreak to the Americas non-prom data centers, all of our customers will be upgraded. Okay, this is a different process from the normal ITSM schedule. In dashboards, the upgrades are mandatory because we cannot, for example, we cannot simple upgrade customer A and leave behind customer E. All of them are upgraded, and of course we start first on non-prod, and then most commonly a week later we will have the upgrade for the production data center for the first the same 5 customers. And as I say this is for example, for Americas. Of course, that's not the real name, but we have other data centers, for example, for Canada, Ireland, etc. But what I want you to explain here is that all the upgrades are mandatory and all the out-of-the-box content is operated at the same time. We cannot have any customer left behind because we work on same data centers and we mandatory upgrade them in a whole per data center. We have a calendar for that, and most likely we are upgrading like once a month. Um, that's how all the content is getting pushed. The scope of the out-of-the-box content is to have a starting point for the most common use cases. We analyze the reports that our customer most use, and that's how we create the first out-of-the-box content. This doesn't mean that will fit perfectly to your use cases. These are examples that we put here on the table. So you can take as a starting point, and then you can build your own dashboards that will make a real impact to your business. So this will help you to start knowing the tool, to see the different graphics, how to build a query, where are how to construct the query in the different modes, and most likely like a starting point to then create your own content. Something that our customer asks us is why we cannot modify the out-of-the-box content. Well, this content is shared across all the organizations in the same data center, as I explained in the previous slide. So it's blocked. However, you can make copies of the out-of-the-box content and then modify those dashboards and create your own. So this way, we ensure that when we push upgrades to these dashboards, all of our customers will get the most new releases for the out-of-the-box dashboards. On Helix Dashboard, we have 6 categories for ITSM out-of-the-box dashboards. I will explain how we create one for each category from scratch. And let me show you all the dashboards available from the official documentation. On the official documentation, you'll find a description for each of the out-of-the-box dashboards that we provide. If you click on any of these, we'll take you to what we are intending to do with each of the dashboards for all the categories. On this webinar, we're only going to focus on the 6 categories relevant to ITSM. The first dashboard that we're going to demo is inside the Helix ITSM folder, and we're going to focus on the incident dashboard. The incident dashboard is inside the Helix ITSM folder, and we can find it in here. The intention of this dashboard is to provide a quick overview about how your current status with the ticket is. I'm going to explain one by one how it was built and the queries and the forms that were used to create this dashboard. I also want to let you know that, as I explained before, that if you try to save an out-of-the-box dashboard, you'll get this disclaimer that you are not able to save any of this content. However, if you go to here on dashboard settings and click on save as, it will allow you to take a copy of the dashboards and then make any modifications for this. For the webinar purposes, I'm going to create a copy named webinar. First, we need to start with the variables. In this dashboard, we have 3 variables. The first one for company, then assigned group, and priority. All the variables can be created here on configurations and then clicking here on variables. Let me open the first one. For example, for company, this will be the name that you will use when you're calling the actual variable. Then you need to use this syntax to use a query from the remedy system. You need to start with the keyword remedy, then a comma, and then you need to indicate that you're going to run a SQL to fetch all the possible values for this variable. For this dashboard, what we are fetching is all the companies using a select distinct from the HPD Helix table. And we're using a limit just to avoid getting a lot of them. Commonly, all of our customers won't get higher than a 500. So if you click here on Run Query, the query will run and will return you all the values that you have for these specific queries. Okay, let me click on Apply and get back. And all the results for that query will get in this dropdown. Okay, and then these variables can be used in any of the query for the panels. Let me go one by one for all the variables. For example, for assign group, we are again making a query to HPD help desk, but this time we're getting all the values for assign group. And similar goes to priorities. With a select distinct, we are getting all the possible priorities that we have on the remedy system for the HPD helpdesk form. Okay, now that we have all the three variables, we can use them freely on any panel. Let me start with the first one. For all of the out-of-the-box panels, we are using SQL Mode. Remember that there are two types of ways to write the query. The advanced ones is the SQL, where you can freely write your SQL sentence, and the other one is the assistant one, where you will get a display of all of the available forms on the system and start building your query. As you can see in here, as you click and add any other columns, it will be reflected in the SQL editor only if you have the show query enabled. Also, if you select the sync SQL, anything that you have in here will be reflected on SQL Mode. For this webinar, we're only going to focus on SQL Mode, and I'm going to explain each of the queries and how they were changed to be used. For this specific query, we're using a select distinct, where we are counting this specific field from the HPD helpdesk form. And using inside the where statement is where you can assign all of the variables that we selected at the beginning. For example, this query will get me all the entries IDs and will count them depending on this where statement. The first one is the HPD helpdesk assignee is null. Then depending on the variables that you have. For example, for company, you can select a company here, for example, Apex Global. And if you run the query again, you can select on the query inspector, and the actual variable only for Apex Global will be in here. If you change this and select, for example, give me all of the companies, and you go back to the query inspector, you will see that all the companies that we actually have on the system will be reflected in here. So the query inspector is a very useful tool to see if the variables are flowing correctly in the system and the real SQL statement that is getting sent into the AR system. Okay, so let me close this for now. And of course, there's another pair of where statements. For example, we are filtering by assign group, also by priority, and of course, the submit date. This is the syntax that we can use to use the date picker. For example, we're using to restrict the data right now to only 30 days, and the syntax will look like here. This is a between like statement, because we are saying that the submit date needs to be greater than the from and need to be lower than or equal to the 2. And these two values, the from and the 2, are getting from here. If we expand the range, we can get a different results in other kind of queries. As this is a lab system, we don't have much info, but we'll see it in the other panels. So this is the most basic panel that we can build. It's just a simple count, including all the variables that we have in our dashboard. Also, for this panel, we are using stat mode. There are many visualizations. For example, we can change to the normal table and will only show us that value. But for this to look better, we are using a stat that will give us the result in a big number that will be more intuitive for the end users. Okay, let me discard this and let me go to the next panel. This will show you all the incidents that are on overdue. Let me show you this. Again, we are counting all the entries IDs with a distinct, but with a different where statement. The only thing that gets different from the other panel is this statement on the where clause. In here, we are filtering the field SLM status to be greater than service target warning. Why we're using an greater than? This is because SLM status is an enum field. So service target warning is actually a number. And if it gets higher, it will get everything that is overdue. And again, we're using all the variables to allow the users to filter the data by company, assigned group, or priority. Again, we are using the stats. There are many options that you can use with the stats visualization. For example, you can change the title of the panel. If we change it here, it will reflect here on the panel. Let me change it back. Also, a very useful feature are the thresholds. By default, the base is in red because we're trying to show overdue tickets, but you can change this. For example, if you want that from 0 to, for example, 700, it will still be in red, in red. But if we change this to, for example, 600, you will see that the threshold will paint it in yellow. And like this, we can add any other examples. For example, in blue, we can say when it reach the 700, show it in blue, and we can add any other rules in here. And the color will be changed based on whatever we put in the thresholds. Okay, so let me save this. And let me get to the next panel. Next panel is the open. So same as the other panel, it's exactly the same query, but now we're filtering, but the status is less than resolved. Again, this is an enum field, so everything less than resolved will be showed in here. Again, we can change the colors. By default is red, but we can modify that according to our needs. For this panel, we are using, again, the same variables. You will see these variables along almost all the panels by company, assigned group, priority, and of course, the dates. The only difference is that in here, we are counting the tickets that gets their status in breached, and then we are dividing by the whole amount of incidents. We're doing this division in here by simple adding this, and of course we're multiplying by 100 to get the right to get it as a percentage. In the visualizations option, the only difference is that we are changing the unit to percent, so it will add the percentage sign in here. But apart from that, all the other options are same as the other panels. Next panel is the average incident reassignment. So they just do an average on the field group transfers. It's getting filtered by the same variables. This is very straightforward, and the options are similar like the other ones that we've been reviewed with. Only difference is the field that is using group transfers to get this average of the reassignment. For the next panel, we have the average on open incident age. Um, Same variables. Now we are filtering by status less than resolved and using the date difference operator that will give us a difference between when the ticket was created using submit date versus the current date. You can use this function to get the date when you click the refresh button. This current date is getting refreshed anytime you refresh the dashboard of the panel. And then with the difference, we are getting an average for all of the incidents that we have on this range. And that's how we get this number based on the average for the average open incidence age. Okay, next panel is the incident trend. For this, we are using a different visualization. For this kind of visualization, what I recommend is starting in table view and make sure that the format is also as table. This will give you a better insight of all the information that we currently have in here. Okay, let's go to the query. In the query, we have the first field that will count all the incidents that we have on the system. We can see it here on this column. Also, one of the main ones is this that is in time. That will give us the time reference of when these incidents were created. As you can see in here, we're using the date function. This will trim down the hours and will give us the results in a single day. It will allow us to group all the incidents that were created on a single day. Okay, then we have a case statement with labeling all the current status. For example, for this one, if the status is less than resolved, then we are labeling as open incident. You can see it in this column. Same goes for all the other ones, but we are getting it from different fields on the HPD helpdesk form. This one is targeting the critical ones. So we are counting here by doing a sum as critical. Then again, for the status that is equal to resolved, we are putting a label as resolved. And the ones that are where the reopening date is null, we are considering that they're not getting reopened and also counting them. As you can see in here, all of these will be all the lines that we can see in here. Let me change the time series so it will looks better. And are all the metrics that we have in here. Refresh once again. This out-of-the-box panel is using the graph old visualization that will be changed in future releases. But as we can see here, you can see the trend that is going down according to the different inputs that we have. For example, for the 25, we have 67 incidents. That for the next days, we have only 3. As we are selecting time series, it will split them like this to see in a better way, or in a table view, how all the data is organized. If you don't want it to show it like this, you can move this from time series to table, and we'll give you back all in this format if you want to see it like this for testing purposes. And in the end, you can always disable the table view to get back to the final metric that will be displayed in here. So the key for this kind of metrics is have at least one date field, and then as many other fields that you want to display on this visualization. Okay, this one is pretty straightforward. Let me jump to the next one. In this one, we're using a bar chart. So let me explain you how this was built. For this visualization, again, I recommend to start on table view. So you'll have a better insight of what your query is returning. On this query, in the first line, we are filtering all the assigned groups that are different to null with the case statement. So it will only give us the assigned groups that are actually populated, and everything that is on null will change it to unassigned. So this is just a method to mask the null values for the assigned group, and instead of having nulls, it will be placed as unassigned. Then we are doing a simple count that we can see in here, and then categorizing between open or resolved, saying that if the status is lower than resolved, then it's open. And remember that this is an enum field, so we can use this kind of operators because these are actually numbers. And if it's greater than this, show it as resolved. The where statement contains the same filters that we were using, and the group by is required because we are counting some of the metrics. Okay, so this query will give us this on a table mode, and then if we disable the table view, we will use the BNC barcar. For the BMC barcar visualization, there are many options. For example, we can select if they are vertical or horizontal, if we can separate it or stack them, if we can see in here. The order from ascending or descending when we have more values, and if the tooltip is for all the series or single series. This means that if we select all the series, we'll show this, versus the single series will only show where we are pointing. Show legends is pretty obvious. It will hide the labels, where the labels you want to show, top, right, left, or bottom, and the alignment of these ones. As you can see the difference in here. Okay, you can also select if you want to have the numbers in here. For example, I don't recommend to have both of them, the tooltip and the show labels at the same time, but it's up to you. And then the most important is to select the category. For this category, we have assigned group because it's divided by the different assigned groups that we have in the system. If we have more info, let me see if I have more info for this one. Yes. For example, now that I expand the range, we can see that service desk is like the top offender, but it's dividing it because we're adding assigned group to category. Then you can specify what kind of field this is. We know that assigned group is a string, so we can declare it in here. Then the value is what you're counting. In this case, is this field. And then the differentiator or the tiered variable that we're selecting here is the status. So we can also do it the other way around. For example, we can select in here to be the status and in bear data the assigned group, and we'll group all the open and resolved, and then showing the different groups in here. For this example, let me change it back to assign group and to status, because this is what we want to show. Let me switch it back to only give me, let's say, 30 days to give it better data for, or a better visualization. Remember that this date picker will affect it because we have it declared here on the query. Okay, let me go to the next and final visualization. Okay, these two are pretty similar. Let me get into the first one. In this panel, we are using the BNC Crosstab visualization. This will give us a table with all the required information. Let me expand it to 90 days, so it will give us different status. In the query, we are counting all the incident IDs. We're also adding the status, the priority, and the assigned groups. The where statement contains the three variables, and we are saying that only show us the incidents that are below the resolved status. And again, we are filtering by the date picker. For this visualization, the key takeaways are the fields, where you need to organize how you want to show them in the table. For example, in here, we are not adding the assigned group because it's not needed, but we can add it if required. But we are displaying the data by priority and by status. For example, if I change or add this, it will add the assigned group. For example, if it's for network, service desk, or whatever, and it will impact if you put it first, if you change it from here or to here. As you can see, in rows will be put in here, or in columns will be placed in here on the columns, and the order that you select them will impact on the result. And the values will normally be the value that you're using as a counting one. Okay, so organize this as per your use case. Let me remove this for now. To show the data. Okay, let me get to the next and final panel that is kind of similar. For this panel, we are using the same exact query as before. The only difference is that we are adding the assigned support company. So as we're using the same visualization, we can see it in here, but now they have a different range. In the row fields, we are adding now the starting with company, then drilling down to the assigned group, and finally by priority, as you can see it in here. First the support company, then the assigned group, and finally the prioritization. And the value field will always be your numeric value, that in this case is the count. And the column fields we are only separated by if they are in the status, for example, assigned, in progress, or pending. The only difference of this heat map is that we are using the thresholds for saying, for example, that going from 0 to 6 will be green, but when reaching 6, it will show in yellow, and from going from 6 to 11 and beyond will be show in this orange. This is how you can paint your or do a basic heat map to see where is your more workload on cases. Another cool option that we're using in this out-of-the-box panel are the data links. This will allow you to drill to a more specific or detailed dashboard by simple clicking on each of the numbers. For example, if we click in these two, this will take us to the incident details drill through dashboard, and will show you those two incidents that were drilled through from the main one. You can do as many clicks as you want, and will open again the incident drill through, but with the specific values that were sent from the main one. This is something that I want to talk to you about. All the drill through dashboards that are out of the box are not mentioned in the documentation because they are not meant to be used as a standalone. They are only meant to be used by this kind of dashboards where you click on any of the metrics and will lead you to the details. Okay, let me explain you how the data links are getting constructed. Okay, the first part is the details of your environment that will be till here. Then you need to add the word variable as a reserved word, and you need to start sending all the variables that you have in your main dashboard. For example, in here we're passing by status, saying that we are bringing the variable that is named like this. Also by priority, support company, etc. And also providing the time range by using this syntax. They will send the actual time range that we have on the main dashboard to the child one. Let me put this on a notepad so it will be easier to explain. Okay, and let me get an example, for example, of this one. As you can see in here, the data is actually decrypted, and all the variables were changed for actual values. For example, this priority was changed to critical. The support company was changed to Apex. The assigned group was changed to networks. And also the date range were applied in here. So this is the final URL that gets constructed every time that you click on any individual value. So all of these settings will be passed through the child. Okay, that's all for the first dashboard for incidents. Let me jump to the next one. For this one, we're going to focus on the CNDB overview dashboard. Okay, this is how the dashboard, the out-of-the-box dashboard looks. And let me go panel by panel. Let me start with the first one. In this one, we are doing a count on all the instance ID and also adding all the ones that are in the base relationship form. We're making a sum of both of them, and that's how we get the final count. We are joining both of them using instance ID versus the destination instance ID. That's how we can using a left origin on the query. And on the where statement, we are using using two of the three variables to get this information. As you can see, we're not using the date picker in any of the where statements. So this is taking the whole of your CIs of your instance ID to display this final number. It's not considering the time range. Okay, now the next one is very similar to the first one. but we are adding the date. So if you remember from the other dashboard, in this kind of panels, we need a date field so we can make this graphic. Again, we can activate the table view to have a better understanding on how the data is showing. But this panel is exactly the same as the last one. We're just adding the date so we can make a good graph and see the number of CIs that has been created in certain amount of time. Now, the only difference is that we are considering an amount of time in here, a difference from the other panel. We're selecting 90 days, and we can see all the data points involved into this metric. Okay, the next one is just a replica of the timeline that we have, but in a table mode. This will show us how many instance ID are on each of the data sets. The next one is the CI by distribution class. In this one is pretty similar to the other ones. The difference is that instead of having the other field, we are adding the class ID. So we are grouping by class ID and showing it in a pie chart. Okay, and also we are including the date picker. So this is considering the 90 days that we have in here. Same is the use case for the one here below. This is CI distribution by type. So the only difference is the field we're using here as metric. As you can see, it's a case when based on the field type. That if it's null, it will label it as unknown. This is just in case that you have some nulls on your data. But if not, it's saying just give me this field back. So it's the same as having this field alone, but we're using the case when statement to add a label to the data that has some null values. Again, we are just counting, and in the where statement we have the same fields, and of course the grouping by, we are doing it by this field. The other two is exactly the same query, but we are displaying it in table mode instead of having a pie chart. Exactly same field. Okay, this was the CNDB overview. Let me jump to the next one. And now for the next category, we will go to the digital workplace. And we're going to analyze the DWP request overview dashboard. Okay, this is how the dashboard looks. As you can see, now we have 4 variables to get the company, the organization, department, and region. So let me get into the first panel. Okay, in this panel, we are counting all the request ID that are coming from this form and doing an inner join as a kind of a filter to filter all the IDs that matches with the CTM people form. You can see it's a match between the remedy login ID versus the requesting user ID. So this will filter our data versus the records that we have on CTM people. And for the filters, we're saying that the request state is different from draft. That the field for is book request master is null, or or this field is equal to 0. This is like taking out all the records that has this value as a null or has a 0 to count the real request raised. Also for the process instance ID, we are filtering by nulls, also that the value is different. This symbol means it's different or not equal to SRM request submitted and external link out request submitted. These are fields that we are not considering for this count as we want to filter that out to have the active number of requests raised. And also we are using submit date to pick the date picker. Remember from the other examples, this is the syntax you use for the date picker, and using the four variables as a filter in case you want to shrink or drill down to using any of the variables here. Okay, all the other panels are very similar. The only difference on them is the request state. In the other one, we just have different from different from draft, and the only difference versus the other panels is that in here we have the request state equals to active, waiting for approval, or pending, but all the other fields, also the inner join, is exactly the same. All the other four panels has same structure as the first liner. So let me get into the first one. Okay, in this one, as we are using a graph visualization, we need a date for it. So we are adding the date to strip out the time and use it as a time field. And also we are counting again the request raised. The only difference is that we are saying the request state different from new. All the other filters are very similar as the first one, as you can see in here. So the only difference is that we are doing a graph versus the time. So we are adding this field. Okay, the next one is a bit different. In here, we are using a nested query. As you can see, the main query is this one, this select statement. That is pretty similar from the other ones, but in this one, we are grouping or making a bucket versus the date when this was open. By using this method, you will have different buckets where you can fill your data. And as I said before, if you want to change this, it's better to see it in a table mode to have a better way to develop it, and then at the end you can get back to the varchar visualization. So as it's a nested query, this is the first one, and then you are just calling the H1 from below, that is all this field, all this case statement. We are getting it using here. We're just calling it, if you can say it like that. And then there's a substring on the age. So by doing this, it will simplify the sort order by putting it like this. So when you filter it, as you can see here on the query, you have the order by. You are ordered by this field that we select for sort order. So it'll be easier for Grafana to do a correct sort and show it on descendant order. Then the last one from this row is doing a relabel using a case statement to remove the uppercase, and in some of them changing, for example, here from active to in progress, to have a more significant label for the end users. We are using the current date as a time function, and then counting all the request IDs. The where statement is using the same one as the stats that we reviewed before. So the only special thing about this query is this case one statement, where we are relabeling the states and showing all of them in just a single view. If you can say it in another way, this report is the summary of all of this that we have above, showing in a percentage mode. So last but not least, we have these three panels that are built the same way. As you can see, we have the same where statements as we did before. We are doing the differentiation, that the request state will be different than draft. So we are including all of them, but by the draft ones. And also we are doing kind of a filtering by using the left outer joins. And also in the fields, we are joining together the two categories that we have available. And then if none of them matches, then we are putting a label as uncategorized, as you can see in here. That is the top offender for this category. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the DWP request dashboard. Let me jump to the next one. Okay, for the next category, we're going into the Helix business workflows. And for this one, we're explaining the business workflows dashboard. As the other dashboards, we have four main filters or variables in here: line of business, company, assigned group, and priority that we will use in most of the panels. Okay, let me start with the first one. Business workflows is one of the most easy dashboards to explain, as it doesn't use a complex query. Okay, so for this stat, we are counting all the IDs from this form inside the case flip case form, and we're using the four variables that we have here on the top, and filtering by the date picker using the create date field. And the only differentiator for these panels and the other ones that I'll explain after this one is the ticket status. We're saying that the ticket status will be below 5,000. As the other ones, status is an in field, so each of the numbers match with a certain label in the Dev Studio. So that's why we can use numbers to do this differentiation. So anything below 5,000 will mean that the ticket is in an open state. Okay, the case by assigned group. It's like a kind of a summary. We're using the BNC Crosstab visualization, and we need all the fields. For example, we are getting assigned group, as you can see, is in here. We're using priority, that is in here, and the different status that are all these three. All these status we're getting from the status field. And company is not getting used on this one. As you can see, is unused in here. So we can remove it from here, and we'll have the same table. So we're using an inner join in here to link the ticket status HUID versus the ID on the shared services live status form. And the where statement is similar to all the ones before. We don't have any addition because we want all the groups in here, so we're not filtering but displaying all of them in the table. So this is, I think, the most complex one for business workflows. The next panel is also pretty straightforward. We are adding the time to be able to construct this table, and also counting all the IDs, and just doing the group by the priority. As we only have medium fields, it's showing like a whole. But if we have other priorities, the pie chart will be displaying many values in here. We can see that all of them are in medium on the previous table, and that's why it's showing like this. And for the last panel, we have a graph chart or a trend chart that we are counting all the cases created. And we are doing a categorization by status. Again, if it's less by 5,000, means that the ticket are open. If it's equals to 4,000, it means that the that the status is on pending. Same goes for 7,000 that is closed, as we see on the other panels. And if the assignee is not is null, then it means that it's unassigned. And if the counter is greater than 0, then it will be reopened. This is like a summary of all the other panels, but showing in the like in a time or a trend basis. So you can see it in the last 30 days how it was behaving. Now for the next category, we have the Helix chatbot. The documentation, you'll find it as BMC Helix Virtual Agent Chat Conversation Details Dashboard, but the real name is just Chatbot Dashboard. Let me go to one of the environments. As you can see in here, it's Chatbot Dashboard. This dashboard doesn't have any variables, and it only depends on the date range that we provide in here. Let me go to the first panel. So this is a pretty straightforward stat. We're just counting the session IDs that we have with a select listing. This is the form. It's really large, but this is the full name of the form. And the only where statement is the event date, and we are using the date picker to select the date range. Next one is unique users. In this one, we're using account distinct to avoid counting a user with the same username. And again, the only one on the where statement is the date picker. For the chatbot rating count, we have a conversion using a case when statement, where depending on the rating, 1 is terrible, then 2 is disliked, 3 is okay, 4 good, and 5 excellent. We are just converting the numbers to labels, and we're making a sum for the rating report data count that we have on this form. So we are making a sum of all of them, and that's how we get the result of this pie chart. And again, the only where statement is depending on the date picker. Now for this successful transfer to an agent by bot, this is a more complicated query. Again, I recommend to start in table view to see how our query is forming, and then change to BNC Barcar or any other visualization. So this query have two portions. As you can see, there's a union in here. So there are two queries in one. This is the first one, and this is the second one. So on the first one, we are getting the total sessions that we can see in here for each of the bot names that we have on the system. So we have the bot name as the first column. Then we are counting all the session IDs. Then we are doing this case when 1 equals to 1 to label it like putting a label on the total sessions. That's why we get this portion of the query. And then the successful transfer, you will see it in here. They are the exact same queries, but in one of them we're getting total sessions, and the other one we're getting a successful transfer. And of course, we are using the different joins to get the data. For example, in this one, we are using the total sessions in the left outer join, and in the other one, we are using the successful transfer to get the data. But the query structure is exactly the same. We're just joining the correct tables to get the data intended for this metric. In the where statement, we are only using the date picker, so it's not much to comment in there. And the only complexity is that we're using a union to append the both set of data into one big table. And then we can enable back the table view, and we can see a metric like this one. For the next panel, um, this is not as complex. We have name as one of the metrics. Again, I recommend to use the table view. And then we are counting all the intent report data, and then just taking off the irrelevant or relabelling it by putting it answered or unanswered by doing this case one statement. So this is just a relabel of this field. And we're using the inner join as we need this field to get to this inner join to get into this field. And on the where statement, we are just limiting the data on the date picker. Okay, let me jump to the next one. In this one, there's an error message because there's a lot of data in here. We already have a request for enhancement for this. But if you select a tiny date range, it will show the data. Let me get into the query. Again, I recommend to go to table mode. As you can see, we are selecting some fields like the intent, the count, the bot ID, and in the configuration table, the actual name. And of course, the event date, so we can correlate all of these. Okay, let me change back to table view. So this is a pretty straightforward query. We're using the inner join because we need the configuration table, as we can see in here. And in the where statement, again, we are only using the date picker. And the last one is a trend. Get in here. So of course, as any graph visualization, we need a time. So we're using event date. And we are using configuration as one of the main fields to get this this table. And we are counting all the active sessions ID and labeling as conversations. Okay, that's all for the chatbot dashboard. Let me go to the next one. This is for live chat, and we will explain the live chat usage and value out of the box dashboard. Okay, this is how the dashboard looks like. As you can see, there are only 5 panels in here, and the queries are really straightforward. Again, we only have 2 variables in here, one for company and one for region that we will use in most of the panels. So the first stat visualization is just a count of the session IDs and is restricted only by the two variables, and also a hard-coded date as the current date being today. So this panel will give you the stats only for today. It's not considering the date picker because we are not referencing it. This is one of the ways to hard code date values. In this specific example, we are only taking the sessions for today. Same goes for this panel, exactly the same, with just another filter saying that the VIP is equals to yes. Okay, in this one, we are using the date picker, the one from here. Remember, this is the syntax. And as we are using a time series visualization, we need a time metric. So we are converting the create date to date, stripping out the time and grouping by only the date. And then we are counting all the sessions. That's pretty much it. We're not using agent name. We're using the same query for all other panels. That's why it's here. But this is only using time and session count. The next one, same where statement. Again, we're using the date picker. We are counting all the session IDs. And with this substring, we are constructing for example, the April to 2023. We are getting April from this first string. Then we are adding a space, and then we are adding the year. We are concatenating them and creating something like this. And with this form, we can sort it out correctly. And the last one is a tickets deflection. Again, as it's a time series, we need a time setting. We are again counting, and we are using a case when statement to filter out the nulls, the nulls on the ticket type. If it's null and it's closed, then it'll be 1, and that's what we are counting as the metric for the close count. That's how we are getting if the tickets are getting close in close chat sessions without the ticket creation. The where statements are exactly the same, the two variables, and again we're using the date picker. Okay, that's pretty much it for an example for all the out-of-the-box categories. Here are some reference of our previous webinars and some links to our best FAQ and the community links. So I recommend you to go to all of them. We explain some advanced settings and methods to use Helix dashboards in the other webinars, and also how to use the conversion tool to move your reports from a smart report into Helix dashboards. As a summary, on this webinar, we now can understand the high-level architecture about how Helix dashboard connects to ITSM and the Helix platform, and the common terminology like ARJDBC and the ADE. We learned for the SaaS world how the out-of-the-box content is distributed and how frequently we update the systems, and the scope of the out-of-the-box dashboards, that this is just a guide and the beginning to start your own dashboards per your own use cases, and you can use it as a starting point. And of course, a step-by-step to explain the queries, some different visualizations, how to use the drill to and the drill through dashboards that are getting called for other dashboards, and at the end, some references so you can keep exploring the Helix dashboard world. Okay, that's all for my side. Thank you all, and see you on the next one.